Hello, and welcome to Superbwoman Sundays at 7. I'm your host, Janet Neal, the founder and queen bee at the Superbwoman Incorporated. I'm very happy you've joined us. I have an amazing Superbwoman with us tonight. But before I introduce her, let me tell you a little bit about where we came from with this idea of the Superbwoman. I believe that women have the power to change this world in an instant as soon as we realize it. So many of us have bought into that superwoman role. It's all about doing. And may I just say, it is not a sustainable model. It serves no one. It only results in burnout and frustration. And so I have learned through personal experience and through talking with so many other amazing women that it really starts from being yourself. From taking that time to step back and understand who you are. It's all about the be. And so that's where the Superbwoman came from. We offer a variety of services for women, everything from coaching, training, speaking, and our newly launched Tribe of Superbwomen, an online community for successful Superbwomen. Please check us out at www.thesuperbwoman.com. And now, let me introduce our next guest. We have, of course, another amazing Superbwoman with us, Cheryl Benton. Now, Cheryl and I met through Ann Akers, who knows everybody and is the most generous person introducing others. And Cheryl has a really fascinating job right now. She is the publisher, the founder and publisher of The Three Tomatoes, which is a digital lifestyle magazine for women who are not kids. So, and coming from a background in advertising. So welcome, Cheryl.
Well, thank you. This is very fun, and it's great to have the head tomato speaking to the queen bee.
That's fabulous, fabulous. So Cheryl is one of my executive council members on the Tribe of Superbwomen, and is offering her expertise in her background in advertising and in publishing, and I'm so thrilled that you're part of our community.
I am too. I think it's a great idea, and it's a wonderful way for women to really support and help other women.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Cheryl, let's get into your story. So, you and I were talking, and you were in the advertising agency business. You had your own agency for 30 years.
Well, I had my own agency for several years, and then I was acquired by a very large agency in New York City. So, but yeah, I was in the ad agency business for almost 30 years.
And I loved on your bio, it said that you were amongst the mad men and mad women for all those times.
Yeah, unfortunately, I missed the 3 martini days, or maybe fortunately, I
right
did.
Right, exactly. So, how did you go from this life of the advertising world to doing this digital magazine that you do now?
Well, it was about 8 years ago, and I left the ad agency world, and I actually had started a marketing consulting firm, which I still have, although it's a little more on hiatus now with the Three Tomatoes. And I really started the Three Tomatoes just for the fun of it, and it was really based on the fact that I was living and working in New York City, and I knew all these fabulous, smart women who happened to be over the age of 40, 50, 60, and beyond. But I felt suddenly we had become invisible, and marketers weren't noticing us anymore. We had fallen off the radar of the media. If you were looking for things to do in New York, everything was written by, a 20-something for all the hipsters. Shopping had started to become a chore, and I would be having these conversations with my friends saying, well, where do you shop now? And, where do you find a restaurant where you can actually have a conversation? And, what are you actually going to be doing this weekend? So it was all these conversations that I was really having with my friends. And I thought, well, the heck with this. We're not going to be invisible anymore. And if no one's talking to us, we're just going to talk to each other. And we're a pretty powerful group to talk to.
Indeed.
And just for the fun of it, I launched this little newsletter, and I sent it to 60 friends, and it just took off from there. I mean, it's really been this amazing journey. Certainly not anything that I ever expected would happen. And it's just been terrific.
That's fabulous. So
Yeah.
tell us more about the Three Tomatoes.
Yeah, well, we're now when we first started, we had this little website which was really basically just to sign people up for the newsletter. But then before long, we actually had people coming to us who wanted to contribute to the website. So that really just expanded. So now we actually have a very robust website, and we cover, as I say, everything that's going through our hormonally charged brains. And it's all the topics that women who are interesting and have some experience are interested in. So it's style, fashion, health is a big category, travel, entertainment, careers, next steps, you name it, we pretty much got it covered. And we publish several newsletters a week. And then what happened, when we first started out, because I started in New York, we were very New York City centric. But then I started to notice people from all over the country were actually signing up and subscribing to the newsletter. So I knew we had really reached a chord with other women who didn't want to feel invisible anymore either, and who really liked the tone, the tonality of the Three Tomatoes, and it's sort of your best friend sharing information with you. As I like to say, we don't, dispense advice. We're not Oprah. You can go to the go find her channel someplace if you want that kind of help and advice and suggestions. So what's happened over time is that the newsletters are now more topic focused, in each issue. And on Saturdays, we have a New York City specific newsletter. But then 2 years ago, we were very excited because we were able to launch a newsletter in Los Angeles. And just a few months ago, we launched in San Francisco. So that's been really a great expansion and great fun addition for us. And we're hoping soon to launch something in London too. So I think that'll be great fun.
That is so exciting. And if you need, correspondents to travel to these locations.
I know every time I read our LA Life or our San Francisco Life newsletter, they're all so full of fun stuff. I want to get on a plane and go out and do something or other that they're recommending, and I know they all feel that way about coming to New York as well. We also do a lot of live events, tons of them in New York, and we've recently launched events in LA, and hopefully we'll start doing that in San Francisco as well too, on just a wide range of topics, all kinds of everything from an annual wine trip that we do in New York. We go out to the vineyards of the North Fork of Long Island. We now have a film series. We have an annual talent show for women over 40, which is so much fun. We just had our third one. And then we've had events on the sexy have an expiration date. Of course, the answer to that is hell no, it doesn't. That was a great fun event too. So that's been fun. And then a little over a year ago, we launched something new called the Three Tomatoes Hot List, which is a guide to the best finds in New York City. And this is really fun because we all have those friends in the know who you go to and you say, well, where did you get this? Or where would you go and find buttons in New York, or whatever else you're thinking. So what we did was we went to 50 friends who we all know a lot about New York, but together they really know everything. And we said, give us your best finds, your favorite places, those sort of secret things that you normally don't tell anybody else about. And we put together the hot list. So we've got everything from the best public restaurants, but public bathrooms in New York City. So when you're out and about, you kind of don't have to hop into some disgusting little bathroom, but actually to a nice hotel. We have the best restaurants in the theater district. We have great shopping finds. So that's been another really fun addition to the Three Tomatoes. And next up will be the LA Hot List. So that's coming soon too.
Very fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
So let me step back a little bit from the Three Tomatoes and where you are today, and go back a little bit further in your history. When you were getting into advertising, tell me about how you ended up in that field and what that was like, because I can only imagine that back in the day that was probably not the easiest path for women.
Yeah. Well, I actually ended up in that career sort of by default. And I think that happens with a lot of us. We start out doing one thing and end up doing
Right.
something totally different. And I actually started out being a high school English teacher.
Ah,
But it was after the Vietnam War, and there were very few jobs available because a lot of guys had actually gone into teaching because you could actually get a deferment for that.
mhm.
And I was substitute teaching, which is if you've ever done that or know anyone that's not that's not teaching. It is not
Do a
fun.
whole show on that one.
Not fun. So I was sort of waiting for a full time job to open up, and summer came along, and I thought, well, I'm just going to go. I'll get some kind of job for the summer, and wait for something to open. And then I found out, well, everything. If I told people I was applying for a summer job, I mean, the job paid nothing.
Right.
And if they thought you were leaving at the end of the summer, they didn't really want to hire you. So I'm like, okay, next job interview I go, and I'm just not even going to say that. And I like to say it ended up being the longest summer job in history because it was at a company where I stayed there for 10 years. And
Ah.
it was actually a big technology company.
Hmm.
And I started out, I don't know, as an assistant to something, but very soon a job opened up for actually in their communications department for being the editor of their corporate newsletter. And because I was an English major, that was appealing. And from then, I made the leap into advertising at the company. I became the ad manager, and then ultimately, I was the chief marketing director. So
Ah.
I stayed there for 10 years, but I had really, really wanted to get into the ad agency business.
Mhm.
And I had actually interviewed, and I had obviously been in business now for 10 years, and I had been working with some major ad agencies, right? Because we had a pretty big budget. But when I went to try to get a job, talk to people about a job, it was like, well, you don't really have any business, any experience on the agency side.
Right.
So I just decided, well, the heck with that. I'm just going to start my own ad agency, which I did. And my company, which had then become three different entities, became my first clients. So I was in the technology space for a long time. So I had this agency for 10 years. And then a couple of people came knocking on my door because we were getting bigger and more attention, who were talking to me about possibly merging or being acquired by them. And I actually was acquired by the agency that 10 years before that didn't hire me because I didn't have enough experience. So it
Oh,
went around
wow.
kind of full circle.
Karma, baby.
So it was great, and I loved being in New York City, and I loved being part of really a global ad agency, and it was some of the best fun years of my career actually doing that.
That's fabulous. So I think it goes to show that you make the best of the situation, lean into it, never say no, and you never know where you're going to end up.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, and I definitely can see from that part of the story how this was such a natural thing for you to do the Three Tomatoes.
Yeah, yeah. It's taken sort of everything that I love
Absolutely.
and have some talent and expertise in it, and I'm able to really bring it all together. So
That's
it's been
fabulous.
fun. And as I said, I never imagined myself being a publisher either, which is also something I never had any experience in
Yeah,
doing.
yeah, yeah.
But I think you're right. We don't let those little obstacles stand in our way, we superb women.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I see that over and over with
Yeah.
successful superb women. It's a quality. So another thing that I see is that Superb Women have learned that we cannot do this by ourselves. So who's helped you on your path?
Oh my gosh, there have been so many people all along the way. I was very fortunate. I mean, I had a lot of people who mentored me. In those days, it was really men because
Right.
it was men had the power.
Mhm.
But I was very fortunate because really many people helped me to succeed and reached out and that's been really terrific. And I have to give a tremendous amount of credit to my husband, who has always been my biggest supporter in everything I've ever done. And anytime I was doubting myself, he would always be the one who would kind of give me that next little push and say, "You can do it, or just go for it." And if he used to say, "Well, what's the worst thing that could happen?"
Mm.
And I'd say, and you kind of think about that. And it's when you actually think about it, the worst thing isn't that bad. And you sort of
Yeah.
forge ahead.
Right, right. Yeah, and it sounds like you've got some fabulous friends that have really helped you as well.
Oh yeah. And my girlfriends and my women friends and that's just been amazing. And I think the for me anyway, that the older I get, the more I appreciate
Mm.
um my women friends and it's and that's been terrific. And there's just such a great embracing circle of women that I've met in New York, like you, and we mentioned Dan Akers, and who really I would never have met without the Three Tomatoes, because I was in this little world of advertising for so long. In fact, a friend of mine said to me, when you live and work in the circus, you only meet people in the circus. And
Right.
I felt, for many years, my circus was the advertising world. And once I stepped out of that, and the Three Tomatoes opened so many different doors and so many avenues, and it's been wonderful because I've met women, amazing women in all kinds of endeavors and fields who I would never have met before, and who are so generous with their time and their talent and giving back. And it's great. I think it's a great time to be a woman for sure.
I couldn't agree with you more on that one. And that, to your point on that, I know we've talked about this before, and that's the kind of the whole premise with the Tribe of Superb Women. It really is women helping women, and
Hmm.
just the benefits of that are just, y- I mean, incalculable. Incalculable. I can't even say it.
Yeah.
They're
It's
huge.
important stuff.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And for everybody, I
Yeah.
mean, for society, but for yourself and for those around you. So it's a great. I mean, you really have a great story about the benefits of that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Excellent. So another thing that I say that I have found in a trait within Superb Women is that they've learned to let go of the shoulds in their life. How about you? You got a should or two that you've let go of?
Well, what I think happens when you get older, it's an evolutionary thing.
Mhm.
One of the good things about getting older is the things that seem so important to you, the little things, or the things that would upset you so much,
Mhm.
or people's opinion, or whatever that was,
Mhm.
just stop being that important. They're just not. So
Right.
I think it's about, there's not one specific thing. I just think it's sort of an evolution, and you evolve to this different place where it's the smaller things that matter to you in life, and the smaller things become the really important things. And there are things like friendship, or small moments. I call it those sort of small precious moments in time that you
Mm.
come to appreciate, and not so much the big event, or being so driven about certain things too.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a place that we evolve into, which is a good thing.
No, yeah, I would totally agree. And I've also found that the shoulds contain a lot of the guilt. Um, and when we let go of the should, the guilt kind of is a
Yeah,
part that goes away as well. So,
exactly.
yeah, absolutely. So, what about gratitude? How does that figure into your life?
Okay, well, here's the thing with the gratitude thing. I think it's become it's diluting itself in a way because it's become such a trendy thing. And if I see one more hashtag feeling grateful, son on somebody's social media. I mean, that's when you know it's become so trendy.
Right, right.
So it's not about this thing. It's not about keeping, I mean, it's fine if people want to keep journals or whatever they want to do. Of course, I'm grateful. And I think, most of us, you get to a point where you are. And I do think that's part of the older you get too, the more appreciative you are of things.
Right.
But I don't think it's in that trendy, I must get up every day and think of 100 things that I'm grateful for. I'd rather get up every morning and have a feeling of joy, have a feeling of optimism, have a feeling of being positive about what the day is going to bring. And if things don't go perfect during the day, just to find a way to relook at it or reframe it or, get past it.
Mhm.
So I think, yes, does gratefulness all come into that? Yes, but I don't look at gratefulness as the follow hashtag grateful movement. That makes sense. And I probably just
Yeah.
annoyed a whole lot of people, but
No, I get what you're saying, that it's a personal thing, and it's more a way of incorporating into your everyday life rather
right.
than having it be this trendy thing, another thing you have to do.
Yes. And shouting it out publicly to everyone that you're, so grateful about everything. When you're grateful, it's internalized and it's the way that you deal with other people and in the world, I think.
Hmm.
It's sort of like the reinvention thing a few years ago. We were all supposed to reinvent ourselves till we realized, you know what? I'm pretty okay the way I am. I'm just going to keep going along this path and this route. I don't necessarily need a reinvention. So,
Well, we're kind of going back to the shoulds there. So,
yeah,
and if you
yeah,
feel like you should be grateful or you should reinvent yourself, that's when it doesn't work.
exactly.
Yeah. Wonderful. So, what's next for you?
Well, we've got a couple of very fun Three Tomatoes things coming up. I mentioned we started this film series a year ago.
Hmm.
It was actually my partner in LA who was, she's an actress and a producer. She's been involved in the film industry in Hollywood for such a long time. And it was something that was very important to her because we do not have enough women in Hollywood, certainly behind the cameras. We still do not have enough women represented in film throughout the world. TV is a little bit better. There's been so many studies done on how women are portrayed and viewed, and women have such powerful stories to tell. And it's so important for our daughters, too, that they see women in a positive light.
Absolutely.
So we decided to launch a film series that would highlight films that were about the stories about women over 40 or produced and or directed by women over 40.
Okay.
So we launched it last September, and our second film is May 18th. We're screening in New York City, and then on May 26th we're screening the same film in LA. And it's a female Hungarian filmmaker who didn't get. This is I think the first film that she's over 45. It's the first film that she's directed, although she's been behind the camera for quite a long time. And it's a really powerful short film. It's won tons of awards. It's called En Passant, and it's a very powerful story on domestic violence.
Hmm.
And we're going to have the filmmaker there and then a panel that's going to talk about domestic violence, which, one out of every three women, shockingly, really, is a victim of domestic violence. And
I
it
heard that
crosses,
statistic, and I could not believe that.
yeah, it crosses every strata, every,
Hmm.
income level, and it's
Yep.
often something that's very silent,
Hmm.
and we need to speak out about it. So we're excited about that. And then on June 15th in New York City, we're my partner with our talent show, Randy Levine Miller, is producing an amazing show that's going to feature the winners of our last three talent shows, and they're
Oh,
terrific. And that'll be very, very fun event.
very nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. And people can find out more about that by going to your website, I
To
assume.
the website and especially signing up for the newsletter because that's where, obviously we put all the latest information and the events promotion and all that good stuff.
Excellent. Well, we're going to have a slide at the end of this for those of you who are
Great.
watching that will give all that information, but tell us right now the name of the website.
It's the3tomatoes.com, and the three is spelled out.
Right. And it's a very fun website. If you go to it and sign up for the newsletter, I highly recommend it. It's I look forward to getting it and seeing all the updates. There's I'm one of those people who likes to see the before and after makeovers, and they have always
It's a great.
they're really fun. So there's a lot of fun things on that. So Cheryl, thank you so much for
Thank you. Thank you.
our show today.
Bye.
And for those of you who have joined us, I thank you for watching. Stay tuned to next week where we have another superb woman, and take advantage of signing up for Cheryl's 3 Tomatoes newsletter. And until then, until the next time we see each other, have a superb week. Bye.